Hello, everyone. This is Hava from Hava Wellness. I'm so excited today to have another wonderful conversation with the mother of probiotics. This is your chance to learn all about microbiome, learn about the gut flora, which probiotics are the best and why, and how to use them. The whole idea is to empower you to be your own healer. There is not one medicine that fits all. And that's for that purpose, you have to learn how to heal yourself. You have to be so intuitive to your own body and to your own needs. And I know there's so much noise and voice outside and so much podcast and so much information from everywhere. But you need to know the truth will prevail, and the only way to truth is only if we tune into our own self. We are not the healers. People like to say, "Oh, can you help me, Hava? Can you heal me?" No, I can't. I can give you the tools, but by the end, the person who will heal himself is you. So this is all about. That's why we do it, to empower you to be your own healer. Okay, let's invite Natasha. Ask questions. It's a wonderful time to ask the mother of probiotics everything about you want to know, everything about the gut flora. Here you are. Hello, my dear Natasha.
Hello. Here we are,
Here,
probably talking about the most important thing that people need to learn about health in general.
yes,
And unfortunately, I've been in this field for 60 years and I've seen the level of knowledge decline significantly, which is a great concern to me because we see these chronically ill people not getting better. And thank God for people like you who are teaching the mothers and the women who are the caretakers of the family what to do with their family and to keep things that seem very complicated simple because it's really not that complicated. It's a matter of what is safe and what works. That's it. What doesn't
absolutely.
harm the body and what works to make you healthy. That's it.
Absolutely. I see, and prior, before you joined, I mentioned that the whole idea of what we do is to empower individuals to be in charge of their own health.
Yes.
And sometimes we look at the doctors and we say, this doctor or this healer will save us. But that's not true. We're not the ones who will save anyone. We saving ourselves, but we need to get the tools how we can help. So we actually got questions, so we're going to cover some questions.
Wonderful.
Do you want to say something? Do you want to start with some topic, or we just, if you want, we
Yes.
can
I'm
just.
just going to say that we are a hybrid of microbial cells and human cells. The microbes always outnumber us. And it's, I believe, the creator's choice to make sure that we create that unity between the function of the body and the organisms that are part of our body. Once we understand that gut health, that communication of absorption with the immune cells, the entire function of feeding and fueling your body is dependent on the association we have with a complex microbiota that live in our GI tract. And I say microbiota because people misuse the word microbiome. Microbiome originally meant the sum of all the genes that are found in those trillions of microbes that are in our body. And by the way, their genes number 238,000 versus our 22,000. So they have the upper hand, and we better learn how it is that we can make that association because that is the foundation of our health. And once that relationship is disrupted, you're going to have names of diseases, but they all have the same origin. It's right there in the gut.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, this is what I think. This is where people lost the connection. They kind of lost the connection to understand that everything is, it comes in from our God, and the God is the main. You know, there was books written in all the books from old scholars, and they only speak about the God. And for
Sorry.
some reason we kind of forgot about that, and we start dividing each organ into the separate ways, when in reality God is everything.
That's
It's the
right.
way we think, it's the way we behave. And I found people who are also I mean, it's just there starts everything. Malnourished, people who have problem with their emotions, everything is processed in the gut. So that's how incredible and important it is to really take care of it and understand. And once we just hop anything inside our mouth without any knowledge, that we actually can harm ourselves. And that's why I want you to tell more, teach us more about the strains and microbiota.
Right. No, it's very simple. I've spent 60 years in this field, and I don't mix a lot of microbes because I have to be concerned that A, they're completely safe, and that they have the best interest of keeping us healthy because it allows them to thrive. Their primal directive is that they have to multiply their own kind, and they have to multiply their own kind in the most desirable environment. So if we become the most desirable environment, then they can multiply in our GI tract. And the reason people put all these names of microorganisms is because they're taught to use microorganism like chemical compounds. They're not chemical compounds, they're single-celled brains. They are smarter than we are. So if we assume that they're going to do something for us just because somebody published a clinical trial, it's nothing than further from the truth. So I chose Lactobacillus acidophilus because it's been in the literature for more than 100 years. My family introduced the first liquid acidophilus in the United States in the early 1960s. My father's company, it was called Continental Culture Liquid Acidophilus. And, I did the research while I was still in high school and in college, translating, Russian works, Bulgarian works, American science. So we learned, and acidophilus was the dominant probiotic in the health food industry for at least 40 years. So in 1982, when I brought the concept and the word probiotic to North America, people didn't know what I was talking about because literally, if a product didn't prove to be acidophilus, nobody wanted to buy it. So I had a real challenge. I had to teach people that yes, that bifidobacteria are just as important because they serve an indispensable function for the large intestine. And then the third bacteria I brought up was one of the bacteria used in the starter culture in yogurt, and that was the Bulgaricus. That organism has been proven to increase longevity by eliminating toxins. And it's the only organism out of three in the whole microbial world that can actually pre-digest food for itself and us. See, first they do things for them, and then that also benefits us. So I didn't fool around with any other bacteria. I only added Bifidobacteria infantis because I found out that that was the most important bacteria for newborns, pregnant women, nursing mothers. And then I found out that because of what our society did to our intestinal tract, it was very important for sensitive people. So therefore, I only had 4 microbes. And the reason I was being unfairly competed against because the people who didn't want to do the hard work that I do, because I make sure that I grow these microorganisms to incentivize them to want to work for us. I'm going to repeat that. You have to incentivize them by giving them a certain diet so that they want to work with us because that's in their best interest. They don't work for us just because we put a label on a product or we think that they're less smart than we are. They're not ignorant. And so all these.
Oh, I lost you. I lost you again. It's okay. Somebody is calling. Very important information.
There was somebody trying to call me and I had to decline.
It's
So
okay.
the reason that people put all these names of microorganisms on the label, it's a marketing tool because a private label manufacturer can make thousands of products with no scientific reason, just listing names of microbes, and people who don't know anything, oh, they think, look at all this, it's going to cause diversity. Listing all those microbes on a label has nothing to do with diversity. In fact, it's the furthest thing from it. So forget about all those names it's going to call. Second of all, the normal state of bacteria is what's called competitive exclusion. They will try to exclude any other bacteria that's stopping them from thriving. So you put them together in the same capsule where they're allowed to touch each other, they're going to compete because now you're threatening their primal directive, meaning your kind has to thrive. It's as simple as that. You
Yeah,
know,
I want people to understand, visualize. Everyone should just visualize it's a whole army out there. Everyone is fighting to survive. And
yes,
when you're playing with different strains, they will compete. So be smart next time you go to the supermarket and you just want to buy a probiotic and you see all these fancy names, or you see an amazing like um, advertisement, and then you're like, wow. But just be smart. Just by being with us here, you become so smart, because now you know, oh, I remember the mother of probiotic once said, do not play with any kind, because that can actually harm you. They will compete with each other. So if I buy from whatever they do, even if it's a fancy advertisement, and even if the doctor wear a coat, and they're so like really showing all the proofs, no, always we have the mother of Prashul who tells you the truth. Do not mess around. They will fight, and then you will end up actually having more, harming yourself more, right?
yeah, exactly. Because here's the games that are played. Besides, for instance, if people give you like single organisms, and as mentioned before, Lactobacillus plantarum, which is found in a lot of these products for mental health, it's a great competitor with yeast. Unfortunately for us, it's also a great competitor with 4 species of bifidobacteria. So you're taking a bacteria for one thing in the small intestine, but may cause problems in the large intestine. This is where the lack of what I call holistic knowledge comes to play. You don't fool around with bacteria that only do partial good in one part of the intestine, and then the other part of the intestine make create a hostile environment. You shouldn't do that, because probiotic microorganisms should never be used just to treat a symptom. This is not for symptomatic relief. What probiotics are meant to do is reset an optimal microbial balance in the GI tract, so that your food can be utilized to fuel you, not just to feed you, to make sure that you're absorbing the right amount of vitamins in the correct amount that your body needs. Number three, to defend the intestinal wall from other bacteria that come in through your food, the air, and the water that you drink, from attacking your intestinal wall and causing immune problems, because the immune cells and the bacteria live on that wall, and they're all trying to protect. The immune cells and the good bacteria are trying to protect the host from allowing bad bacteria to compromise that wall and get into the bloodstream. That's the whole game, because the bad bacteria want to have access to the bloodstream, because once they have access to the bloodstream, they can do a lot of harm in anywhere in the body. So I'm keeping this simple. So just imagine there's a big fight every time you're sitting there talking like we are, of bacteria and immune cells working together to protect you, or bad actors trying to take you down by giving you something we call disease, which disease literally means a lack of ease, meaning that your body's not in a healthy state. And so when you play around with bacteria and you don't understand what you're ingesting, it's like giving a nitroglycerin set to a 3-year-old and hoping he doesn't blow up the house. That's
Yes.
what you're doing. You're playing Russian roulette. And then some of these people get desperate and then they use soil organisms, which is very dangerous, to persuade you, oh, soil organisms will work. Yes, they will work because they're much hardier and smarter because they have to survive in the soil. And going again to mother's wisdom, which mother told you don't wash your vegetables or fruits before you eat them in the kitchen or at home?
Actually, none, but that's something that I hear this a lot lately. That many holistic healers say that you have to, once you pick it, the cucumber, you can just put it in your mouth and eat it. And I don't know. I mean, this is something new that I start hear this a lot, and it's become kind of trend. And I feel it's a very dangerous trend, though.
It's very dangerous because, again, as a famous French philosopher said, the most dangerous person is the one who's only half educated. And this is what we have, half education, because we don't have a clean environment. And soil organisms and other pests can go on the vegetable or on the fruit, especially since we're not using pesticides. You see, pesticides were developed, and actually, what most people don't understand is that virtually every pesticide is a very potent antibiotic.
Yes.
Why? Because it's designed to kill the pests, but the pests are also inhabited by bacteria. So by killing the bacteria, they're killing the pests. That's another, topic for more, but that's simply said.
Right.
So that is again not wise, information for people who don't we don't live in a clean society unless you're growing your cucumbers in a hydroponic garden at home where everything is not sterilized but in a sanitized situation. You're playing a game. And otherwise, and also because a lot of these bacteria now that are resistant to every known antibiotic are also airborne. They're in the community. It's no longer the same environment even that we had 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. So you cannot take that same advice and tell people the same thing today because we've changed the environment. We've changed the game. The game has changed. The rules have changed. So we should not be doing that because a lot of people today, A, cannot tolerate raw vegetables and raw fruits anymore. They just don't have the composition in their gut to deal with that, and then they find out they're not feeling well or they're not feeling good because they've done that. You have to be very careful, especially if you're coming off of a bad diet with simple carbohydrates, what you go into and how you have to train your body to accept the new diet and the new lifestyle. It just doesn't happen magically because I've talked to a lot of young women who have radically changed their diet. And what happens? They start losing their hair and they start losing their menstrual cycle.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? Protein is very important. If you're not getting enough protein, you're going to have a major problem. And so this is again the problem we have, that everybody becomes a guru with a little bit of information.
Right.
Uh, they don't have the depth of knowledge necessary for this day and age, which is very complex. We have a polluted environment, especially in the United States, with 10,000 chemicals in our food, our air, and our water. We have 80% chronically ill people. So you better know who you're getting your probiotic microorganisms from. And the most important thing is for you to reset the balance in your gut if you want to regain health. And I say, as much as I love herbs and as much as I like the other things, herbs are natural medicine. Natural medicine should not be consumed on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, your microbiome is not operating correctly. Uh, and that's one thing we have to know. When is the time to use natural herbs to regain our health when once it's been compromised? And this is something we don't understand in our society, and people just take it all the time. And believe it or not, it does have an effect on the composition of your microbiota. And that's again too little knowledge misused for so-called health concepts. And then the most important thing, what I want to tell people is that they do not understand what they need to eat, how they need to live. and they go on these crazy, and I mean crazy, parasite cleanses.
Yes.
First of all, I don't know of who are these doctors or natural practitioners, because you have to have specific knowledge to identify the parasite. And these cleanses are so harsh; they literally strip everything off of your intestinal wall. Now you're just allowing anything that you eat, breathe, or drink to occupy that intestinal wall. It's extremely dangerous.
Right.
You may have gotten rid of the toxins or what you think is a parasite, but now you've left a whole area completely unprotected, and then you go out and buy a probiotic off the shelf. It's like trying to put a band-aid over an amputated arm. It's the right concept, but not nearly enough protection to protect you from what you just did. And this is where the lack of information becomes so evident and so crucial in our society. And that's why we're not making progress, because people do not have the depth of knowledge. They just have a little bit of book knowledge to get up here. And then all of a sudden, everybody jumps in that wagon. Oh, that's a quick fix. Let me do that, and I'm going to feel much better. So if you don't have the healthy family, you're not making the food. You haven't looked at your ancestral background to see what kind of diet you engaged in. We flip flop. We went from no fat in the 1980s, like fat
Right.
was the worst thing. I used to argue with everybody. Then we went, now eat fat. Don't eat beef. Eat beef because beef is the only thing you can eat if you have allergies. I mean, it's just a flip flop, daily flip flop. This one says this, that one says that. And then everybody runs and wants that quick fix. I think what you're doing is right, because we're teaching people to establish a norm. A norm is something you need to grow on. It's stop, running around doing all these crazy things that you know nothing about, and then expecting you to be healthy, because you're not going to be healthy. And you're going to be the first one down when there's a flu or anything floating around the air. So that's what my whole point of working with you, to teach the mothers how we get back to this normal society where the information that's critical for our survival is passed on from one generation to the other, and we're not seduced by quick fixes. Advertising is propaganda, so I'll call it propaganda. And we have to have more than what I call 2-second attention span, because that's what's led us to this horrible position we're in now. And honestly, I'm not seeing any reversals. I'm not seeing any reversals in autism. I'm not seeing any reversals in chronic illness. I'm not seeing that in our society, even though we talk about it. The, there's too few people getting the results that they need.
Yeah. Well, the industry of supplements, once it's been realized that it's something essential and needed, people took this idea very seriously and decided to have the supplements on a daily basis as it's like something normal that we have to do.
Mhm.
I agree that there might be a certain supplement, which is a certain minerals that we might take. But also, I always say to everyone, to all my clients, whenever they come say, "Oh, can I take your quick immune boost all the time?" I said, "No." And sometimes people get upset. What do you mean? It's a winter time. I want to take this every day. I said, you never take any of those herbs on a daily basis. You only take when there is a problem and we're trying to solve the problem, but not
Mhm.
on a daily basis. Now I'm going to hop all the time, let's say a certain vitamin all the time. So now we create environment where the body says, okay, so I'm not going to work hard. You're going to just dump whatever you're going to dump on me and let the vitamin C, let's say, or this do its job. Instead, the microbiota will say, I'm in charge. I'm the one who will decide what to do. And you're not going to bring extra stuff on my head because I'm the one who is designing everything. And you continue throwing all these different supplements from every corner, then you don't allow me even chance take care the important things that I do. That's I think very important. Also, Natasha, it's very important to mention that people that are in supplemental business are not really careful, and many people, especially if they work with probiotics, if they don't do like in your book, that you explain, if they don't do this in a correct way, or if they don't sift, or they are not transferring, and that can also harm the bacteria. And most people, they just want to do quick, and they can you expand a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The whole problem with the industry is that they want to make it easy for the consumer to buy the product, not necessarily what works. So there is no such thing as a shelf-stable probiotic from the lactobacilli or
Oh,
bifidobacteria species.
very,
Why?
very
There, yeah, there's no such temperature as 72 degrees to 80 degrees in transportation. Why? Because I am the pioneer of perishable shipping. I started that in 1970 when I started working for my family's yogurt business. I established the perishable distribution in the health food industry. There was no perishables. There was actually no food in any of the stores. Very few of the stores were actually serving actual food. So when you think of natural preservation, there's two things: salt and keeping things cold. Why? Because at a cold temperature, it declines the growth of many bacteria. It keeps the bacteria not dormant, but in an arrested state of growth. So if you keep, it's just like if you want to keep your food good. So you put it in the refrigerator because whatever background bacteria are in the food, they grow at a much slower rate so the food doesn't spoil. It's the same thing with probiotic bacteria. When you keep them cool and not allow them to grow inside the capsule by exposing them to heat, then they will die. They will, overgrow. They will compete with whatever is in that capsule, and they will die. They will be so weakened that even if they're alive, they're not going to be able to do you much good because now they've been trashed, and they're weak. They don't have. They may be alive, but they're no longer active.
yeah.
Okay, so if we do some of these fancy scientific counts, which they try to tell people, oh yeah, we can prove the bacteria alive. Well, yes, you can prove the bacteria alive, but they're not active unless you're counting how many new bacteria they can produce. That's the difference. If they can't produce new bacteria and you're only counting the ones that are alive, it's no good. They're not going to be doing you much good. So what I'm trying to tell you is these shelf-stable products are really a terrible, terrible thing that they've done to people because they don't explain that when you ship 9 months of the year in the United States, the temperature when it reaches 80 degrees outside, the inside of any UPS, FedEx truck, or any delivery truck, including Amazon, will reach over 120 degrees
Right.
within 20 minutes. And how do I know this? Because the American Automobile Association has issued these guidelines for people leaving children in cars. Okay. So we know that these temperature readings are accurate. So it's the same thing with bacteria. You leave them exposed to hot temperatures, they're going to start growing and they're going to start dying and they're going to become inactive. You want them not only alive, but you want them active. You see? And so this is the ignorance that people have. And plus when you label anything shelf stable, because again, no training from the mother, no training from past family history, these people will throw the product in a hot trunk. They will put it on a windowsill. They will put it somewhere in the kitchen next to the stove. They have no idea. That knowledge has been completely erased. And so they're really consuming dead or inactive bacteria, period.
Yeah.
So this whole game, and plus, I don't care which plastic you're using, plastic is never sufficient to not allow the smallest amount of moisture to seep into the product. So the bacteria, their primal directive is to thrive. So you put them in this plastic bottle, it still allows enough moisture in very minute amounts to get in to wake them up especially if they're not refrigerated. And when they wake up, they're going to want to start growing. But if they're in a closed ended system like a capsule, there's no food coming out and no waste going out. So, of course, what's going to happen? You're gonna, I mean, I truly don't understand how people don't think about this. Why in the world? And then now the big game is about microplastics. I would say, why would you want to buy any supplement or any health food and anything but glass? This is my argument that goes back 40 years with the industry. I said, how can you tell me about shopping bags when your whole store is filled with plastic containers?
Yes.
I said that's like dumbing us down. What has a plastic shopping bag got to do with thousands of products you have in plastics in your store? A health food store should be carrying everything in glass that's truly recyclable with tin lids, not plastic lids. Okay, that's where the problem comes in. The fact that we make up these stories and tell people whatever they want to hear. And I said, can you please tell me how you can make a potato chip healthy? That's not the kind of snack you should be having. I
The-
don't care if they're natural tortilla chips or if but I just don't buy them because I know they're addictive. You get one, then you want to eat the whole bag. So I
yes.
just never buy them. That's it. So and then they used to get so upset with me because they used to, when they have this, actually, the store of the future was something that I recommended at one of the trade shows about 20 years ago, where I said, if you want to sell oils, probiotics, amino acids, and even digestive enzymes, you should have a refrigerator in the supplement section. Because if you're selling life supplements like royal jelly or anything that has a life or a purpose, you have to keep it cool because you're not using any preservatives. I always tell the people, hello, if you're not using preservatives, that's a living food. Hopefully, your supplement is a living food. Certain things like oils need protection because they can be rancid without smelling bad or looking bad. Certainly, probiotics will die if they're not stored properly. Certainly, even digestive enzymes will become harmed because they're susceptible to heat exposure. Amino acids, peptides, all of these things are very sensitive to temperature changes, but nobody talks about it because it's bad for business.
Yeah.
And we have to wake up because we can't be doing like little changes here and little changes there and not looking at the big issue. The big issue is not plastic bags that they're giving you at the store. The big issue is get rid of the plastic in the health food store, period.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And one more thing, Natasha, about the ultrafiltration. It's also important point that you speak in your book, where you speak the way how they process and how they filter the bacteria. And you do the old and amazing way, while the others just doing very quickly. Can you say a few words about?
Yeah. Well, the separation techniques have improved in the last 20 years. So before then, the ultrafiltration, but there's a way you can separate bacteria. What you have to do is it's a very expensive machinery. And let me just qualify this because my products that are in the powders, nothing is separated. The growth medium, it is very expensive. That's why the powders are not a big margin item for me because more and more the cost goes up because the cost of freeze drying everything together is very expensive because in that growth medium you make all the compounds that are necessary for the bacteria to thrive, and fortunately for us, the compounds made in that growth medium by the beneficial bacteria also have incredible benefits for the human host. And they're now trying to call it postbiotics, which doesn't give it any definition. They're calling it metabolomics, but I call it originally the intrinsic supernatant, meaning the stuff that the bacteria breaks down for itself in its food is preserved wholly. Now, I do separate some of that out in order to make the healthy trinity because I have the fit problem. So we do have a method that's more advanced now than ultrafiltration because remember that book was,
Yeah.
published in 1994.
Yeah.
So all I can tell you is I don't damage my cells. It's a proprietary process. I make sure that all of my bacteria are healthy. and the ones in the oil matrix are the most to survive, but they don't have enough the same amount of the supernatant as the powdered products. It's not possible. So the powdered products are very good for people who have problems with inflammatory bowel disease, because the powders are the kind of dosing you need to start slow to allow the body to heal itself. And then you go into the, Trinif Trio or Healthy Trinity. And by the way, we only sell the Trinif Duo, which is a new product with Bifidobacteria infantis and Bifidobacteria longum. It's the only other product I put in the oil matrix to help with this critical problem we have globally of the disappearance of Bifidobacteria in our bodies, which I think is a crucial point. So each one of our products were designed to give in small amounts, like the powders, to build up, tolerance, and to give you more than just the bacteria. It's whatever the bacteria digested and grew for their own benefit. It also benefits the human host. And for you to get a large powerhouse of bacteria, because we're the only ones who have independent proof from a German government agency that shows that our bacteria in the Trinif Trio or Healthy Trinity survive stomach acid as low as 1.8 pH, which is very caustic, for over an hour. Forget about these people that tell you, oh, we have a special capsule that's acid tolerant. Well, what does that mean? What is acid tolerance? You could, what does it tolerate? A pH of 4, a pH of 3? No, you got to be able to survive the lowest pH possible in order to survive into the small intestine, because stomach acid was designed not only to break down proteins, but to kill bacteria. It's, the creator had the brilliant design here. Everything functions correctly. It's we who abuse the functions that cause the disease.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So everything I do is delegated. It's much more difficult and much more expensive. That's why our products are still unique. And I said, I wish for a competent competitor, because I can't possibly serve all the people. That's why I set the standards, just the standards enough to get a proper label, let alone to get a proper product in the, I couldn't even, that was arguments for decades to get, that first standard, just to list the ingredients appropriately in the label, for God's sake.
Yes.
Uh, this is so important. People don't understand why it's so important. And then I also set the standards for yogurt. And then what happened is, because again, greed and money. So they want to throw all these other organisms who are not starter cultures in the yogurt. And I said to people, in the old days, in the 70s, in the 80s, if you threw this into a yogurt, it would be considered a contaminant, because it's not part of fermenting the milk into the yogurt. It's just an additive. It's an added bacteria, and you have no data that shows that it survives. None.
Yeah, and now we say, oh, it's a good thing. There is more probiotic. Like,
No, no,
far
it's
went.
no, because bacteria are not stupid. They don't perform because we have a marketing plan. They perform because it's in their best interest. That's
Yes.
it.
Yes.
They're not going to do that. I mean, I said, do you think I wouldn't make those shelf-stable products if they were true? Of course I would. I'm not against, making money, but I won't sell my soul to make the money.
Yes.
And I said to people, look, there's countless articles published in the 1980s and 90s that show that acidophilus dies in yogurt. It's not part of the starter culture, and it dies. You get nothing. And then now they're putting in bifidobacteria, and I said, okay, excuse me, but if bifidobacteria are intolerant of oxygen, can you please tell me how a significant number of bifidobacteria will survive in a yogurt, which you will be exposing it to a lot of oxygen once you start, exposing it to air?
Right.
So, I mean, it's just simple things if you understood. If you understood the simple things about bacteria, you would know that these things were not true. They can't possibly be true because the science tells you otherwise.
Yes. We
You know?
have a question. Let's
Sure.
answer. Very amazing lady. She's also a health professional. Okay, so she's asking, If someone has a fungal overgrowth, probiotics wouldn't help. On the opposite. Your thought. She said many professionals say if someone has a fungal overgrowth, probiotics it wouldn't help, and it actually will cause an opposite. Your thoughts about that?
Okay, well, that's only partially true because Lactobacillus acidophilus has been used tested in a clinical trial with Yale Nursing School many years ago on HIV positive women who had yeast overgrowth. And it was able to deal with the yeast as effectively as the drug without causing any side effects. So, yes, the acidophilus has tremendous antifungal properties. And yes, it's one of my protocols that I use if you have fungal overgrowths. And I also offer the carbohydrate diet for free that I developed many years ago, over 20 years ago with Dr. Holland. Because, first of all, you have to starve the fungus. And second of all, don't forget that the more you're trying to use antifungal ingredients, the more the fungus will retaliate. So if you do it too fast and you don't have a probiotic support, especially bifidobacteria in the large intestine, because if you're getting rid of fungus, you better have new players to take its place. Because the fungus turns into a mold. So let me explain this to you. A yeast organism is something we call pleomorphic, meaning it has three different stages. So fungus is one stage, then yeast is another stage, and a mold is when it turns into the body where the fungus becomes deadly. Because when it turns into a mold, it grows projectiles called hyphae that actually anchor themselves on your intestinal wall, and then they will cause you a lot of harm because they will pump nasty chemicals in your bloodstream when you deny it what it wants, carbohydrates. Or when you try to take it off the intestinal wall by taking an antifungal without support from a good probiotic like ours, it will pump the most amount of toxins into the human host body in retaliation of taking it off the intestinal wall.
Oh my God. This is incredible. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Continue.
Yeah. So it's not a simple process. Yes, if you have other probiotics that don't really have this kind of history or don't know as much as I've spent decades in this, you need to use the acidophilus in conjunction with whatever antifungal, and we do have the protocols, and I'll be happy to share them with you, Hava, and we can. And
Yes.
they're only a starting point. What I tell people, when you use an antifungal, even though it's supposed to eradicate fungus, don't use the probiotic at the same time. Use it at least 2 hours apart. Make sure you're on the diet. And what I tell people, you're going to have those terrible blues when you're doing this. So what I tell them is take the powder, take the acidophilus, and then you can, on another drink, you can make it a bifidobacteria. Stick a straw in, and in the next 10 minutes, just slowly sip it in to help you with that, counter reaction of this attack where the fungus is now furious with you because it's got to give up its attachment site on your intestinal wall, and it's going to pump in really ugly chemicals into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So there's ways that we can help you deal with that because I got to tell you, it's not an easy thing. If you've ever seen somebody withdraw from a drug, it's the same thing. You feel miserable and you feel like you want to die because you have to take it slow. Because if you take it fast, you're not going to be able to survive the antifungal regimen because you won't be able to take the toxic byproducts, the fungus is inserting into your bloodstream in retaliation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Natasha, is it maybe that's why there's so much suicides in one way because people are so have overgrowth, obviously the fungi, the yeast, and then if they go on a very clean diet or they are starving themselves without nourishing themselves, they can cause this
Yeah,
side.
suicide are things that happens where you have, mental problems. It definitely yeast overgrowth can hamper the production of serotonin and dopamine, the feel-good chemicals. They're also precursors of tryptophan and GABA that are made in the intestinal tract that are very important. And if you're deprived of these feel-good chemicals, yeah, you will feel suicidal. And that's one thing we have to address because a lot of these young women especially that go on these crazy diets, if you deprive your body,
And then women, I found boys and girls and young, like women, and like this something happening in the young generation when they also want to go on a very clean diet after being exposed to toxins, let's say, and then they suddenly just only eat greens or only eat very healthy, and they eat a lot of raw. I found that there is an imbalance, and
oh
maybe
yeah,
that's what you just explained.
no, 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 you can't eat just raw. This is where, again, a little information is the dangerous thing. You cannot just eat raw. You have to, many times when you're having an antifungal diet, you have to steam things and not eat raw things. That's what
Right.
I'm saying. They don't understand. Your body can't take the raw. It's already compromised. A healthy person can take raw, but you're not going to eat raw to get healthy. I've argued with people in our industry forever. I said, no, when you're sick, I mean, look at the old fashioned people. Did they give anybody raw food when they were sick? Never. They would always steam or cook the food, even the fruit. They used to make compotes.
Yeah.
Why? Because they knew if the person is compromised, especially if they're elderly, they couldn't eat the raw stuff. So they had to cook it. And this loss of nutrients is not that big unless you're boiling it. The problem is when you start boiling it. When you cook it or slow cook it, it's not going to get rid of that. But your body, the most important thing is your body can't break it down. You're not nourishing enough. And if you're not eating enough protein, because guess what? Every minute of the day, your body loses 10 million cells. What if the only thing that can replenish those cells is protein? If you're eating only greens, excuse me, but how are you getting protein in your body? That's what I tell people. It's nonsense. You can't do that. You have to have good, clean sources of protein that your body can break down. Now, if you've never had in your familial history where you only ate, legumes or beans to get your protein, you're not going to overnight develop enzymes to break those down to get enough protein out of them. It's just not the truth, you know? I mean, yes, I believe in the strength of the mind that, your mind can set you to anything, but unfortunately, I don't think more than 1 or 2% of the population has a strong enough mind to overcome all these things.
Right.
And yes, the mind is powerful to change anything, but, this is again, a little information is a dangerous thing because you jump on these wagons because it looks to you like the simplest way to get a result. And the young people who are doing this are not allowing their body to replicate their cells. Okay, so whether you're a young man or a young woman, I know people who have had children that had Helicobacter pylori overgrowth that have committed suicide because it got so bad. I've heard other stories. Now the problem is we never investigate these. We never get the full story, so we're not able to make the most, how shall I say, effective protocols. But we should be making protocols. We should be dealing with that because we have more resistant bacteria in our society now than we ever have in the past. You
Right.
know, to give you one example, what they've done to wheat, to so-called protect it from pesticides, which again, glyphosate was first patented as a very potent antibiotic.
Right.
So, if you look at the diets in the 1920s in the United States, bread was a staple,
Right.
milk was a staple, yogurt not so much, but cheese. And I said, how is it possible then in 40, 50 years, everything that used to be a staple in our diet is all of a sudden become a poison? How did that happen? And how are we living the life? We look at the healthy regions, what they call the blue zones. Do you see those people eating only raw foods? No. You
No.
don't see them eating only raw foods. You see them eating certain oils that have fish, that have sunshine, that have, beautiful exposure to nature. But that doesn't mean that we adopt everything. We have to look at our ancestral background. And the reason all these foods have become toxic with them, not because the foods are toxic, it's because what we've done to them.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I'll give you one silly thing. At one time, using spinach in your smoothie was like the latest thing. Oh my God, you gotta
I
have, yeah.
Butenko family. I remember the Butenko family who would push a green smoothies, and I would always look like the idea is good. I mean, there was a message in what they passed at that time.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want a cucumber, you can have 5, 10, 15 cucumbers. You shouldn't be afraid of fruits and vegetables, because at that time people were so scared. Even like, I just had the one cucumber, like, but if the body is asking to have more, you can have it. But on the other hand, they would promote the heavy green smoothies. And I actually was never able even just to put in my mouth, just it. First of all, the kale and all this, I've never seen in my life. I do know sorrel, but sorrel was cooked. It was never used in the sorrel
Yes.
soup, a famous sorrel soup. But I was never eaten raw. No one. And I never remember spinach. If I know in my ancestors they would cook spinach, but in a quick simmer, and then make a delicious salad with nuts and walnuts
Yeah.
and parsley and cilantro. Like, the only thing I remember green that we used, it was just the parsley, cilantro, and basil. Like, the ones that usually people put on the top as a beauty.
Mhm.
No, there was a meaning to it. And then when the Butenko family came, they brought something good, but on the other hand, people was jogging this huge smoothies. And I actually have one client. She texted me. She said, "I'm getting bloated." I said, "Why are you getting bloated?" And she said, "Oh, you don't understand. I'm in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I take the kale and the spinach and the cucumber and the carrot and the pepper and the strawberries and the pears, and I combine all this together, and this is my smoothie, saves my life." I'm like, oh my goodness, obviously you will be like a balloon walking,
Of
because
course,
kale.
of course. No, but no, but then, they said that spinach is bad because of this or that. And I said it's bad because we tend to overuse things in our culture which we think are good. So I don't even want to get into that fight of why spinach is good or bad, but I just know my
Mhm.
mother always used to saute spinach with garlic. That's how we ate it in the Balkans. And
Right.
it was delicious. Sometimes she would add whole milk to it and, cook it a little bit longer. And it was not like every day. It was like, served once or twice a month. It was not something.
It also was seasonal, Natasha. No one
Yes.
sorrel through the whole entire year. Sorrel was only a certain time. So that's when I go to the farmer's market, I see sorrel. Oh, that's a sorrel time to prepare, and
Yeah.
now soup, but not like on a daily basis. And now people take supplements that are made from a sorrel and few other herbs, and they take them on daily life. So they're basically destroying everything. Like, it's like paralyzing their gut flora. No.
Yeah. It's the wrong use of the right thing.
Right.
That's the only way. And I think we have to go back to that because I think about my mom who used to go to the farmer's market every day when I was a child, between 2 and 6. And she would cook whatever was fresh and available from the market. And she was a great cook. So then I said to myself, well, there was a wisdom in that. You didn't eat the same food all the time. And I want to make this statement, and I want to keep repeating this.
Yes.
I'm telling people to stay away from the juice bars. And why am I saying that? I'm not against the juices. First of all, you have to find out which fruits and vegetables are suited to your genetic type. That's number one. Number two, the most dangerous thing about these juice bars is they never clean out the machines. In the old days when they used to sell Vitamix, there was a warning. You had to break down the machine every 45 minutes, no more than an hour, because once you break down the fruit and the vegetable, all the airborne bacteria, microbes attack it because now it's defenseless. Vegetables and fruits do build a barrier so that they're not broken down so readily. But the minute you put them in a blender or a juicer, you break down their protection. So they become easy feed for what everything is in the air. So if you're not, what you should make that juice, put it in a glass jar, whatever you're not consuming right now, put in the refrigerator no more than 2 days. That's it. But I see these places, they're running 8 hours a day. They never clean out the machines. I see the young people, I don't even know if they're washing their hands using the toilet. And I'm saying to people, it's like, my God, you're playing Russian roulette with your health. You have no idea what's in that drink. Yeah, you're getting a lot of fruits and vegetables, but what is the count of the bacteria that's in there, because that machine is never broken down, but all this bacteria accumulation now is spread to every juice that you buy.
And also, thank you so much. It's a
Mhm.
very important for everyone. Hopefully, people will understand how deep is what you're saying, and not get like with their emotions first. What do you mean? You know, this is a
Mhm.
juice. And also, I always say to my clients, never mix up fruits and vegetables. They should be separated because fruits
Yeah.
is fruit by itself and vegetable is vegetable by itself. And why we would never combine them together? That's like just a simple common sense, right? But even this we forgot. So that's why people have bloatness and they have issues. And when it comes to the juice bars, you're absolutely correct. And also putting everything in the plastic, and then the mixes that they do from charcoal to, it just looks everything nice to the eyes, but look, open the book of the father who brought us juices, Dr. Norman Walker. He never said combine fruits with vegetables. And he would use the juices freshly right there, and he would say the way you use juice, and you're not just gulping the juice, and the juice should be made very sterile. and
Mhm.
and now we have 100, many years ago I thought to open a juicery, but then I realized like that's, it's like it's too much. How you can make sure that the juice that you bring is still has all the amazing stuff that you need to, because you can't run the business when you till you deliver to that Whole Foods or that Whole Foods or whatever, the juice is no longer viable. Like you said, in probiotics, they're no longer, they might be a juice, but what's inside? That
Yeah.
stuff.
And how good is it for you? Because everything has a shelf life.
Exactly.
And the point is that in the industry, because I've been in it for 60 years, the greats like Jack LaLanne, and Dr. Walker that you talked about, they had their reasons. But the thing is, you can't make money with those, how shall I say, advice. So what Americans have come to accept is that anything that's good, you mix it all together, it's even better without any data. And
Absolutely.
then they don't understand anything about sanitation. I think one of the biggest problems we have in America is the complete lack of sanitation,
Right.
or what you should touch with your hands, what you shouldn't touch with your hands, what you need to be careful with. That's something that's not taught at home. And they said, oh, it's good for them to experience more bacteria. Yes, but not at that pace. And plus, you already have a compromised child if they're born in North America. I don't care who the parents are. It's already compromised because of what's in our environment, what the health of the parents is. And you cannot allow the child to be eating dirt because you think it's going to give him a more rich microbiome. It's a lot of silly stuff, because in the old country, a mother would go crazy if you told her to allow her child to eat dirt.
Well, right now, if you look at the TikTok videos, there is a even young, like this, all this movement where they dig worms from the dirt after the rain, and they eat them.
Oh my God. Oh
Um,
my God.
I've seen it. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not even like, if this is true what I see. And I'm like, I cannot understand that. I can, and everything looks so beautiful, and everyone, people think this is how the way, it's not, like whatever. Yeah.
But it's crazy. Just to answer that question about the worms, every animal or insect or whatever we have has a certain protective mechanism. So if the birds are able to eat worms, they have a special preparation in their gut to
Right.
deal with whatever is in that worm. We have no idea what's there and how we can handle it. That's where the stupidity comes in. You can't just arbitrarily decide, oh, I'm going to eat it because I think it's healthy. You got to know what the downside is. They don't understand the downside. They only look at, oh, this is going to benefit us. But my question to them is, how is it going to benefit? Again, the lack of knowledge of sanitation. You cannot just make arbitrary decisions to eat something that your body historically has not been used to eating. And all of a sudden, overnight, you're going to develop these enzymes and your immune system is going to be able to deal with this. It's sheer, utter nonsense. And they're looking to get a very serious disease, which will manifest in 3 to 5 years. And no doctor will ever connect it to that stupidity that they did with the worms.
Absolutely. We have a question, and then
Sure.
we should finish. What can you say to those that say if probiotics can survive in a room temperature, they won't survive in the stomach acid?
Well, they first of all, we have to define room temperature and what's going to survive. Room temperature is usually considered around 72 degrees Fahrenheit, no higher than 80. So each species has a ability to survive when you control something called water activity, meaning how much of this water from the air can the bacteria take in to start its life cycle. So that's why I'm saying it's a complex issue. You just can't do that. And the bacteria some bacteria will get through the stomach acid, but very little. Otherwise, we would all be very sick because bacteria are mostly protein. And the stomach acid was designed to break down protein and kill bacteria, which are mostly, I would say, like more than 95% protein. Okay. So there is a reason the stomach acid was made. So you have to get bacteria A that have a helper. In our powdered products, it's the intrinsic supernatant, the original food, which is transformed. And oil is one of the substances that doesn't break down in the stomach.
Right.
It's simple physiology 101. Oil does not break down in the stomach. It's emulsified by bile. So I did my homework. The oil protects the bacteria in the stomach, and when it's emulsified by bile, my bacteria are bile tolerant. So it survives both processes. I check everything from the beginning to the end to make sure the bacteria have the best chance to thrive in the intestinal tract, which is where they're supposed to thrive.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah, it's simple physiology. That's another thing that's not taught in school. What's digested in the stomach? Where's the carbohydrate digestion? What happens in the small intestine? It's really not complicated if you break it down into simple facts. Carbohydrate digestion happens in the upper small intestine after the stomach flap opens and drops all the food down. And by the way, next time we should talk about these GLP-1, peptides that are
Right.
found in,
What I wanted to ask you today, but then I said, okay, we're gonna do next time. I'm writing this down. We need to speak about the peptides because that's a whole thing now. Everyone into peptides, 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 and we do have to address this
yeah,
issue.
the GLP-1s are like the ones that found in Ozempic. Uh, you know, People need to know that still checking this data, but they say that the food will sit in your stomach for 70 hours.
Right.
70 hours. And then if that happens and you're not producing stomach acid, the food will rot. That's why you have
It's
nausea feeling because the body's recognizing that food is not being digested. And so it's harming the body. So that's your mechanism of nausea and vomiting. It's the body expelling things that it perceives to be detrimental to its survival. So people shouldn't ignore that. Then number two, and then, when it's finally dropped, it rots all the way down your small intestinal wall. It doesn't at all nourish you. And the body is now got to deal with this rotting food going down the intestinal wall at a very slow pace. And that's why you get huge constipation problems. I just had somebody I know end up in the hospital with a twisted intestine where they had to, literally flush everything out because it wasn't moving. So, and I got to look up the data. There was some they were claiming there's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit now against these makers of these GLP-1 peptides that is causing blindness in some individuals. And I said, it's simple. If the body can't produce proteins because there's no protein digested in the stomach, of course you're going to have things break down in the body. And once you lose the muscle mass, guess what? It's never going to be replaced. You're going to be replacing it with fat. So how have you gained anything? You've gained short-term appearance levels that will deteriorate very quickly as you age.
Well, again, because people looking for the quick fixes, and unfortunately, there's no quick fix.
No.
And again, I always people always trying to do something that's harming them, but then go blame others. And I always say, you cannot blame for your own stupidity. You can learn from your own mistakes. And the beauty of it, okay, you did something, you didn't do enough research, but it's not end of the world. At least as long you're alive, you can learn from your mistake and then get better. See, the
That's
whole
right.
idea why in this life we are stumbling and we have ups and downs, not because someone hates us, and not because someone wants to make on our head. I don't know, but the idea is that we should be responsible for our own deeds, for our own way
Yes.
of thinking. And
Yes.
if we are harming, or and the idea in the health industry, the doctor will help me. No one gonna help you. You
No.
need to do your own research. You also need to be you like, so you see advertisement with this tennis player everywhere, this William whatever, she's injecting this, what you're saying, the peptide or
Yeah.
whatever, those Zemtic, whatever the hell they call it.
Mm.
Like, even just looking, like, don't you see that it's all garbage? And but if you let, and you understood that it will save you, then it just shows you how far you are from your own self, how far you went from who you are, how far you went just to look at someone else instead of looking at the beauty that you have. It's just, I think, because we don't appreciate our own body, and we think that it's useless and it needs the help from somewhere else, and it's not correct. We have
Well,
the healing innate in us.
I want to tell you two things to take away from our long meeting. One, it's called the practice of medicine. Remember that. They're practicing medicine.
Right.
Okay. And number two, your body is replaced every year.
Right.
The 50 trillion cells. So every year you have an opportunity to change something.
Yep.
So this thing that they tell you that the brain cells don't regenerate, that the neurons don't, no,
No.
it's not true. Everything regenerates. It's up to you and what you believe, what will happen to your body.
Absolutely.
So I'm not telling you not to listen to your doctor, but just remember, not my terms, their terms. It is the practice of medicine.
Yeah. And be your own doctor.
That's right. And and and
Um,
learn. And we need to get the whole circle of, like I said, women, I believe mothers, and we have to get this knowledge to the next generation because that's why we have so much illness.
absolutely.
We have to educate the young women who are mothers now and who are not being told the right thing.
Absolutely. That's
No?
what we're doing. And I started this with you, and you'll see the movement will grow and more people will open and to listen to the message. I've been doing this for so many years, and then I'm so grateful that I have you by my side, and then we spread this knowledge. And I said, to again, the truths are not so fancy, but the truth is always prevails, and that's the beauty of it. And that's why I don't care of anything, and whatever people might say, and whatever holistic dentist will come up to me, I don't care, because there is always truth, and the truth is what you're teaching us, and the truth is in the common sense, and the truth is what we understand, what is good for us. And again, being your own doctor, your own healer, understanding that there's always good and bad. And the problem that we're also forgetting that in this world we have an option: choose a good or choose a bad. So and we kind of intertwine them together, good and bad together. It doesn't work this way. You always have to
No.
remember there's a good power and there's a bad power. There's nothing in the between. So if we are here, we just want to create good. This page is all dedication of creating goodness in the world, to bring healing to the world. This is all about, like, and each time when I have opportunity to speak with you, and I have opportunity to speak with people into healing, the whole idea is just, when you live this life from us, just looking at your beautiful body, thank yourself and say thank you that there is still people who want to really help us from their heart, not because they want my money, not because they want to take something, or not because they want to put their agenda, because there's no agenda, because we don't
Yeah.
push, we just educate and we give, empower you, the people, the listeners. And we had so many people today, and I'm so thankful. Thank you, everyone, and hopefully see you next week. We will be on Monday again with you,
Yeah.
and amazing. And thank
Yeah.
you so
Thank you for accepting the time change. We all have challenges, but we can discuss anything, and there's a simple solution.
absolutely. Okay. Okay, Natasha, all the best. Okay, bye everyone. Bye bye. Thank you.